Isn't he Mexican?
Colombian.
He calls himself American.
What is this?
Anchor Baby.
And in this corner, it's the American Anchor Baby.
Daddy's home.
That's an offensive term. People find that hurtful.
You mean it's not politically correct? Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby.
You know, he's an anchor baby in Canada.
Tell him we still rolling with Trump, too.
Anchor baby, the whole thing sounds horrific. You're just making it sound like immigrants are these horrific, greedy people.
Ustedes pueden aceptar mi negocio o aceptar las consecuencias. Plata o plomo.
So you would be considered white, in my opinion.
You the blackest one in this room.
I think so.
And what happened was his mama got pregnant on the other side of the border. And then a few hours before, just before it was time for him to pop out, she jumped across the border and let him fall on American soil. So he became the anchor baby. You don't call him the anchor baby for nothing. Amazing.
We like this anchor baby, right?
Hello, I'm the American Anchor Baby, and this is my show. He was mute for a moment, but he is alive, and his voice is coming in clearly. How you doing, everybody? Welcome to the show. Appreciate you tuning in on this fine Monday. What a pleasure to be back with all of you today. American Anchor Baby, we're in the chair. So that means if you want to talk to the Anchor Baby, you got to call 888-775-3773. And we got a bit of a show today. I got to get into some of this stuff. Look, anger is evil. It really is. Some of you don't believe that. Some of you don't believe that that's the truth, the core. Some of you guys think you could be conservatives with anger. Not true. Let me tell you that right now. And you know what? You're gonna need to overcome anger, especially if you're up against Dominican nuns. More on that, okay? This is important stuff, okay? Very important stuff. But look, it's a pleasure to be back on this fine Monday. How was your weekend? Rocking and rolling. I think this is the first Monday for this show of the year, 2025. So welcome, everybody. We're rocking and rolling, okay? What's up, Rumble? Rumble.com/American Anchor Baby, DLive.tv/Gorgonzola, Punchy.tv/Anchor Baby. And, of course, here on YouTube, look, you're coming in. You've had your weekend. You're ready for Anchor, baby. You're ready to talk crap or have fun or call or whatever. And you won't even click the like button. Come on. Click the like button. Show some manners. Show some decorum in this falling nation of standards. Be the light in the world and click the like button. How about it, huh? Hey, so I know there's politics, there's news, but I'm a little bit interested in Il Papa, the potato. No, the Pope. And he is ticked. The Pope is ticked. Il Papa is ticked. How do you say that in Italian? The Pope is ticked. Okay, so whatever. Usually translate tells me. We'll figure that out. Where are my Italians? Tell me. I shouldn't spend time on this. The Pope is ticked. Il Papa è spuntato. Il Papa è spuntato. So, welcome everybody. I do want to get into this. Allow me to do this. Because Pope Francis, who likes Pope Francis? I think he's all right. He's like a liberal. And he shouldn't be your spiritual leader. He's just a guy. And he's got some interesting things because he's a little bit older. Sometimes he's just buffeted by the winds. I really do believe a lot of these leaders, even the ones that you got that are amazing and hardcore, they're like, wow, this guy's so strong. They're only going along with the crowd, what's popular. And guess what's kind of getting popular? Guess what's kind of getting some steam behind it? And that's, let's start MAGA, Trump, conservatives, the Christians, traditional, some sort of stuff like that. Anyways, Pope Francis is calling out nuns with vinegar faces. Pontiff tells sisters to be more friendly and avoid gossip. I really like this story, so please allow me. It's a little bit interesting. Pope Francis, the Catholic, okay? You following this Catholic stuff. And he's getting some bad press, some negative press, because he's here telling the ladies, telling the nuns, you gotta stop having those vinegar faces. It's not nice. Smile more, ladies. And so he's getting some negative attention. You can't be telling that to the ladies. In fact, articles talking about this is saying Pope Francis is on a bizarre tirade. They're saying it. They're calling it a bizarre tirade as he calls out nuns with vinegar faces. Just a stern-faced nun. Excuse me. What do you call a nun? What's like the honor? Is there an honorific? Mother? Oh, gosh. Catholics, get it together. It's not mother. Please don't tell me it's mother. Nun, saint, whatever. Why has your countenance fallen? I'm reading this Daily Mail thing on this. Pope Francis calling them out. The Pope, 88 years old, urged a group of Dominican nuns from the Union of St. Catherine of Siena. Oh, he's asking the Dominican nuns of the missionaries to distance themselves from tales and gossip, which is great advice. But do you know what you're up? I can imagine right now, Dominican nuns, what's going on? I wonder how he's handling it. I can imagine it right now. And there's a mess. Pope Francis left a bit of a mess. No, ese reguero que tú tienes en el cuarto. Me hace el favor y me recoge ese reguero en su cuarto. Where my Dominicans at? No, que I'm the man que ni que nada. No me diga esa vaina. Well, are the Dominican nuns nice? Am I totally getting them wrong? Sister, it's sister. I'm a dummy. Thanks, Troy. No, es un colmo. So he's up against the Dominican nuns, and he's telling them pretty great advice. I really love what he said here, Pope Francis. He's talking about gossip, how it kills. Gossip poisons. He's asking the nuns, please, no gossiping among you, none. And to ask this of a woman is heroic, but come on, let's move forward and no gossip. He's quoted as saying, I'm sure in Italian. He says, that's not something that helps to attract people. Vinegar is nasty, and nuns with a vinegar face, let's not even talk about it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go, Pope Francis. He's giving them great advice. It's not even nasty. It's not like, oh, you're just a woman. Like, he's telling them to stop playing with evil. And the Bible isn't, I should read it a little bit more, but I've heard from some great colleagues, and I've heard about the Bible, okay? And I've seen it referenced at least quite a bit. Gossiping. There's even passages about your countenance, your face. Why are you wearing that face? Cain and Abel. Going back a little bit, okay? Who knows Cain and Abel? Come on, you guys know the story a little bit. What is it? God says something to Cain like, why has your countenance fallen? Your face, man. Why you got such a long face? You got everything. You're my son. Or you're the son of Adam. Does he? I don't know. I should read my Bible more. But these references to your face and how you're presenting to the world is something, there's something a little cheeky about it. Allow me to explain. To me personally, it seems like a little cheeky. Maybe that's the wrong word, but let me put it like this. It feels like the Bible and Jesus is constantly pointing to the inner world, the kingdom of heaven within, how to live from within, how to, instead of living outwardly with all these rules. When Jesus was healing on the Sabbath, they gave him crap for that, right? He got some guff over it. He was like, why are y'all tripping about silly outer living rules? I'm trying to heal somebody. Wouldn't you guys save your sheep if it fell in a hole, even if it was the Sabbath? It's pretty good logic there, Jesus. I don't know, man. A little too logical. A little too close to your father's way of thinking. So the Bible has these references to look inside that is not what it seems. Yet, God looks at Cain and his fallen countenance, the outside of his body, what's showing on his face. And there's something so back to basics about it that is an honest that I like. Don't you always hide your countenance? How do I put this? Don't you always lie why your countenance has fallen? Be honest, chat. Be honest, chat. I know I'm kind of retelling. I'm retelling Bible stories like someone I respect a lot, and so it's a little bit. You know how you get influenced by your friends that you respect. But anyways, it's the ghetto Bible. Y'all are tripping, is what Jesus said. But don't you hide the reason why your countenance is falling? You're like, no, I'm not mad. What are you talking about? I'm just making a face. It would always make sense, right? Just because Jesus was flipping tables doesn't mean he was angry. But there's something so back to basics. You always lie why your countenance has fallen. And I know that's what Cain, even though the Bible doesn't say that Cain responded to God, I know Cain said to him, no, I'm not mad. What are you talking about? I'm not mad. It doesn't say, because God asked Cain, why has your countenance fallen? Why such a long face? And it doesn't say that Cain responded at all. But I know what Cain was thinking. I'm not mad. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, Pope Francis, interesting story. You just have no idea how much you're throwing yourself into hell, into the fires of hell when your countenance falls, and then you're like, no, I'm not mad, even if it's to nobody else, just to yourself. You don't know the fire, the hell that you're in. You don't know you don't realize you're in hell. That's pure hell. And here's a little secret. I've mentioned this before. Your sullen face it was a temptation in the first place. It was a temptation from the devil. You never meant to have a sullen face. You didn't even put that face on. You were tempted in the mind to put that face on. And when you listened, you went deeper into the feeling. You put on this depressed face and you're like, yeah, I really am depressed. That came first. The temptation came first. And it's just true, okay? Like, pay attention. That's something, just think about it, okay? Like, you think, I'm just expressing what's within. And there's a truth to that, but even your fallen face is not really expressing you. It's just this temptation. And it's this feedback loop. And so now the face, and now the mood, and then the mood and more face, and then you overreact, act out, etc. So right on, Pope Francis. He's a bit of a liberal, right? He says, please speak with everyone except the devil. The devil enters the community. He sees the jealousies, all those things that belong to all humans, not just women, everyone. That's where the devil goes. The mind. That's what he's talking about. That's what the Pope's talking about here. That's where the devil goes. And that's to everybody. No dialogue with the devil, says the Pope. Understood? We don't speak with the devil. So, cool. Daily Mail says he has long courted controversy. Earlier this year, he was reported to have used derogatory language against gay people when talking about men training to be priests in seminaries. I learned a new Italian word. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. Just because it's another language, that's still a swear or whatever. But he basically called them that they're acting like abundalistics. Something like that. But anyways, they're saying Pope Francis speaks like this. He's rough-spoken and can be embarrassing, and it could be getting more pronounced with age. A priest who declined to be named told the Times. I'm chuckling a little because I don't really Pope Francis his roughness must be just from like being older, because he's a pretty understanding guy, right? That's my impression. That's just my impression. But right on, Il Papa. No gossiping. It's the devil himself and his foothold in your life. And it starts with the little influences. How can a evil spirit have an effect on this world? Where is when you get granular and you're like, where is the exact effect? When you zoom out, you see the fire, but where is that spark? The spark is in the minds of individuals and in their temptations in the mind, the little temptations. So when you're gossiping, you are acting out Satan's agenda. He needs his foot soldiers. You're acting out the agenda. You're part of the plan. So anyways, Pope, yeah, gossip, vinegar faces. All right, folks, 888-775-3773. I had a couple people that are on hold. You can call me back. I will get to calls. But what do you think? What do you think about Il Papa? I like him. I've always sort of liked him. He seems like a fine person. Because here's another reason why I sort of liked him. Because I've never seen a pope, or really anybody, as a spiritual leader. Like I grew up Christian with the family, but rejected that. So I never saw a priest or a pope or anybody as any kind of leader. I remember going to Catholic school. They had me go to confession. And I don't know, I had a little bit of a smart aleck bone in me. I was like, I don't know, Mr. Priest, is this really your business? They never asked me to confess again. I don't know. Like I said, I never saw him as a leader, so that's why I like him. So I don't assign so much importance to him. Because most people go to church for knowledge and comfort. You know what I mean? So, you hear the Pope say something nice. It's like, that's it. It's just something good or something smart or that makes sense. Not your spiritual leader. Or he gets it. Like, because pretty much everyone has anger. That's really what I'm trying to get at. And the Catholics have anger. The Christians have anger. The churches say it's fine. Or at least they indirectly agree with the framework of emotion. The whole what love is. That your emotions are good. That anger is fine. So it's like cool, great people saying cool things, but following, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Christian, and people have anger. I'm trying to point out, I'm just trying to point out the what's the point of all the knowledge? But let me move on here, because I am trying to kind of segue into this story in New York, okay? Has to do with a stabbing. Pretty nasty stuff. But it's interesting. You may have seen people like this. You're riding in the train, and I haven't been on a public transport in some time now. I don't know, maybe the anchor baby, living in America, he's just above it all. I don't know. I'm not the same. Nick has changed. But you see them on the transit, and they're playing music loud. They'll play it loud out of their phone or some speaker. And they're rocking out sometimes, rapping. I don't know. Looking around sometimes. And they're a disturbance. Most people tune this stuff out. They see all sorts of stuff, but they're essentially a disturbance, right? Playing loud music. I'm sure at these heights, many public transitors know the deal. You're in the public, people are how it is. You could talk about it with your circles, like, where is society going? People don't even wear headphones anymore. But most people accept it, right? NYC Metro North rider stabbed in chest after complaining about loud music on passenger's phone. Let me read some of this for you. Just the story here. The chaos underground. You know what? Let me duplication station. Here you go. Do a little visual change so we can change it up. We're looking at a New York. I don't know what that is. All right. Metro North rider stabbed in chest after complaining about loud music on passenger's phone. The chaos underground spread to the commuter rails Saturday as a Metro North rider was stabbed over this argument about noisy music. The attack happened at about 7 p.m. as the train arriving into the station. 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎, 46, was playing music over his phone speaker and took exception when a 31-year-old fellow rider complained about the racket. Little stabbed the unidentified 31-year-old man in the chest twice with a knife as the train pulled into Grand Central. The victim was strong enough to exit the train station and identify his attacker to police who were patrolling the platform. Those patrolmen apprehended Little without incident, recovered the knife. 31-year-old victim was taken to the hospital with injuries considered non-life-threatening. That's amazing. And Little, who's 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎 Little, from Jamaica, who's from Jamaica, charged with attempted murder, felony assault, criminal possession of a weapon. He was arraigned, held on 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒑 bail. And the article talks about multiple stabbings and expresses other stories, similar stories. But what struck me about this story is that's the greed. Don't show them the behind the scenes. What struck me is you gotta take in. I'm just like trying to take in the mentality, and I realize that these people in the streets that exhibit this sort of antisocial behavior are daring the public. And I'm sure I saw this somewhere, but I was reminded of this because of this story. But it's antisocial behavior. It is a dare. They're playing the loud music as a power move. I would go on, for example, I would take the GO trains. Shout out the GO trains in Canada. More on Canada later, by the way. And some of the cars were designated as quiet cars. You would see the sign right as you walked in. It says a quiet car. You can't just be quiet. There would be some individuals who would be really rude in these. It's like if you had some sense, you could tell this person was looking for trouble. They knew it was the quiet car. And what I'm trying to express here is that people still think that things like poverty create crime. That poverty and socioeconomic reasons pushed people to commit XYZ crime. That's just not true. Criminals are motivated by anger, a hatred to the society, and antisocial behavior. And you can have your criticisms of society all you like. But the point is that this person is daring someone to say something to him. Daring the public to say anything to him. You can't tell me what to do. I'm done with people telling me what to do. I'm strong. I'm bigger. I'm better. Whatever. People steal. They steal because they think even something small, like maybe they're not like, I hate society, but they'll think it's a big company and they can afford me stealing this. Antisocial behavior and a hatred to society. You understand? Yeah, so it's not so, you understand? It's anger. It really is. It really is. These people hate. They're angry. They're mad. They're just waiting for someone to pop them off. They're looking for excuses to stay angry and to inflict that on others. Yeah, so that's what I want to say about that. It's like the worst people. They say it's like they're victims, these poor people on the streets, the homeless, etc. They're people with anger, and they're people with problems. And it's like the worst in a sense, or a really bad expression of it. So, you get it, right? I think we're good there. The worst, they're the worst. Liberals don't get this. That's the point too. That human nature can be so evil, but also how you get there. You know, it's not like these people on the street or these people stabbing on the trains. They started off like you. They had parents or they were kids once, and they became angry. They became all people are on this path. All people are on this road until they realize otherwise. And it's funny, you got all these people who are like hypnotized over here on the same road of hate and anger. And because they got stuff to dress it up nice, like clothes and friends and families and husbands and wives, they'll look at these homeless people, criminals, thieves, murderers, assaulters, whatever, and they will hate them. They will look at them and hate them by either saying they're a special evil, they're trash, they're something else, or by saying they need my help, they need society's help, they're victims of something else. So anyways, that's how I see it. Do you see the picture? I was just trying to paint it all. It's like, so anyways, let's stop flying all over here, painting the picture. Let's come back down, anchor ourselves down. We got callers here, 888-775-3773. Thank you so much. I'm going to get to super chats, the callers, and I have a funny one for you. We're going to break it up with a funny one after this, though. I got William out of California. Appreciate your call, sir. You're on the air.
Hey, Happy New Year, man.
Happy New Year, William. Nice to hear from you.
Thank you for the heads up on the drummer you were talking about. That dude is really good.
The Purdy Shuffle, very cool.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Well, when I looked into it, he's played on everybody's stuff.
Yeah.
So he's like one of the better. What do you call those kind of musicians? Session drummer.
Total session musician. Yeah, an absolute expert.
He's not going. You're not going to see him on the Super Bowl show. But most of the stuff you listen to will have him and others like him. They call them session musicians, where they just go from studio to studio, and he's one of the
because they're the best. Because they're the best, and so they're on every record, and they can play anything. We're talking about Bernard Purdy, folks. That we talk a little music sometimes, William and I, and he's just man. If the JLP of drum, not just because he's black. But
he's good.
But he's great. So check if you want a little intro. Google the Purdy Shuffle and jam out.
Oh man, I jammed out to him. I jammed out to him in the garage with my drum set. He is phenomenal. So I mean, I didn't know the name at first, but I could tell you when I looked up to see where his work, his body of work, and everything. The list is long with major artists.
Very cool. Right on, man.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, William.
Your subject right now, all of these different things, the guy in New Orleans, the guy at the subway, the music thing, it used to be, and it's been a long time since I've caught public transportation to work and stuff like that. I don't have to work anymore. But I do remember being on these crowded buses on the way from work and everything, and they did have things called the Walkman. You remember that thing, But
I actually do.
Yeah. And there was an unwritten rule to be respectful to others at one time, and I think you might be right, is that it's a generation of poor, degenerate people who are unhappy with society, and then that's what makes them act out and say, well, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and loot that store. They got insurance. Doesn't matter. I'm going to go, and you see all of the food deserts that the black community has right now because their stores are closing because they can't no longer afford to keep these facilities open and obtain all that crime.
Yep.
You have extra security, and then the profits get demolished.
Of course, and I'm sure there's all sorts of there's all sorts of stuff they have to deal with, like security, whatever that eats into any sort of growth or whatever. I'm not trying to give excuses for. The point is, it's just not. It's not conducive to growth and that's what anger is. If we have to boil it down, anger destroys all that can build, all that destroys families, destroys.
Well, just get a taste of having some of that kind of responsibility and owning some of that stuff and paying out those insurance policies, and you'll understand why these businesses are going out of business, and the Safeways that are closing, and mainly in the black neighborhoods, they're closing because of all of the security they have to provide for people just to go shopping. Safeway had devices that look like you got to flash a coupon to get in the gate and all of this stuff. It's almost like Star Trek, and the consumer doesn't really take in consideration of the high cost for those things.
There's like an unwritten cost too, besides the monetary thing. There's something about like you can boil down. You can almost boil down society to just movement. If things are able to move, you're just gonna have a more conducive society. And it's like you gotta scan this thing to get in. You gotta press the button so someone comes down and opens it up so you can get the deodorant. You imagine a whole system of this. It adds up down the line.
Yeah, and it trickles down to the customer and the owners. If you noticed, they said something about one of the reasons some of these stores are closing is because of like the bigger supermarkets. They'll have something like around 700 500 shopping carts or so, maybe, and they're, and then you remember how they used to have the high schooler that works part-time go in the parking lot
pick him up.
and pick them up. All right, this is something I did not know. Do you know how much those shopping carts cost?
That's a good question. No, I've never.
$700 a piece.
Really? I'm not even pretending in my interest. I was shocked. Fascinated in the shopping cart industry all of a sudden. And in the costs behind all this. This is a sincere interest.
There's a lot of fabrication. There is a lot of fabrication in constructing them.
Hold up. Let's talk shopping carts here. Hold up here.
They're not cheap.
That's interesting.
I heard as high as 700.
Yeah, what are they even made out of? It's like, what kind of metal? Like, that's interesting. Suddenly, I'd like to know about shopping carts. But hey, William, thank you for that. What were you saying there? I cut you off.
They're not cheap. Maybe not exactly 700, but they're not cheap. And if you notice where they're all going in the black communities, they're all going to the homeless. They're taking them, walking off with them. If you go downtown L.A. or anywhere in a major city, you'll see shopping carts. The homeless are pushing them. They're using them for their personal belongings and everything. All of these things that people like to make excuses for, there's consequences. Just like the gentleman that was killed in the jail was telling your producer that if I have a good friend of mine that worked in the prison system up at San Quentin, and he said if you notice, prison guards are much bigger than police officers, and
like stronger
for that. They're much stronger. They're much bigger. They got a criteria about size and bulk because I guess they're dealing with the worst of the worst, and they do have prison riots and they have zero tolerance. And I said, well, wait a minute. Hey man, do you guys what about the rubber bullet? He said, that's a myth. We do not have rubber bullets. They said they have live ammunition. That's why when they tell them to drop to the floor, there's a riot or something, he says, you got one time to drop. If you don't, that's why they drop so quick, because the guards
something goes wrong. They have a gun that can be taken off of them.
They got rifles with live ammunition overlooking these yards. And this guy that got killed in prison and everything is what I see a lot of people on Joel's show was crying about.
I was totally watching. I was going to mention that, I really don't know the story, so I don't want to get too far into it, but I did catch it on Joel. I did catch it on Joel, so I'm somewhat familiar, and it's really all I've heard of it. What are your thoughts on it?
My thought on it is that there's always a backstory, And prison guards, like I said, are bigger because they are engaging more. And there's always a backstory to every situation that they don't talk about. Everybody's quick to jump and say how wrong it is. I really have no concern about it because I don't know what happened with this gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about another story about somebody being pepper sprayed in the jail, mopping the floor and all of that stuff or something. Somebody missed their daughter's eye surgery or something like that. And here's the deal. You want to go to your daughter's eye surgery. How about the easiest way for that not to happen is for you not to be in jail?
That's one place to start.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So,
folks, I don't know the story, but just to give the people a little thing, check out Joel Friday TV. It was on Just Before Me podcast show. He was getting into this, and it was quite interesting. But it's over there. Robert Brooks,
over there.
that individual who was beat in this prison and actually, he's dead, and so it's a big controversy.
Well, what do you? It's common sense when you really think about it. This guy. There had to be a backstory to this. There had to be something other than what we've seen on the video.
It's got to I've just been following news for too long to have a knee-jerk reaction to really anything at this point.
Yeah, and jump to because see, there's something else that goes down. Freddie Gray, Michael Brown, George Floyd.
Yep.
And this guy here in this prison, they were not killed because they were black. That's the one thing that you need to throw out the window. There's no racism involved with this. You need to know, and which we don't know, the backstory.
Fair enough, William. Thank you for that. Well, I'm going to educate myself on this one, man. Appreciate your call. Anything else you want to say before I move the wheels?
Just have a happy new year and everything, and like your new set and everything. So
Let's go.
It's going to be like this now?
Yeah, 12 o'clock, keeping the network energy going, and I'll still have the other fun stuff I do on this channel. That'll all be making its return on its own time.
What about the Friday evening flights and stuff like that? You're not going to do that anymore?
That'll return.
Are you still going to do it?
That'll return in an upgraded way. Bigger and better.
Okay, bigger and better. Well, I also wanted to point out that Kamala just kissed the ring.
Yeah, I saw that.
There's absolutely no victory because no riot jumped up. There's no victory there. She kissed the ring, and the woman looks bad.
She was reading. I saw her eyes darting across reading.
She was the one that had to do this, and this is only there's only two other presidents that or elections that the vice president had to certify. And she's like, I think the second or third and everything. She looks bad. She looks resentful. And
she was reading. I saw her reading. And it wasn't really short. I imagine. I bet you could improvise something there. But whatever.
She's pissed.
Well, bring on Mr. Trump. Right on, William. Thank you for your call. Call me again.
All right. Take care.
Bye bye. 888-775-3773. We'll get back to calls here. Let me read some of these super chats. Thank you so much for the support. You can super chat here on YouTube, buymeacoffee.com/anchorbaby. Cash App, Gorgonzola. Some people keep asking. I do have that available. Supporters, thank you. Let's go with 𝒏𝒊𝒂𝒎 with a little bit of news. And we're going to get into this. Don't worry. Justin Trudeau, he's stepping down. Justin Trudeau is stepping down. I saw that, and a part of me, my Canada, my sweet Canada, that took the Anchor Baby's family in, allowed him to flourish. Now I'm a Canadian and an American. Yes, I didn't abuse any laws in Canada. Actually, that was totally fair and square. My Anchor Baby status here, it's a different thing. I'm a citizen, but whatever. That's a different story. The point is, I saw this, and part of me is like, man, Canada. It's like this is it's a dark time. It's not dark. How do I put it? Unstable, and it's like Trudeau. I saw him. I was in Canada when he became the party leader, and I want to get into some of those things in a moment. So thank you for that, Kale. John Gawains, what's up, John? Says I called someone a B word. Totally unhinged. Was this person totally unhinged, John? Or were you totally unhinged? And do the Gawains, and is that a funny way of saying gains, have anything to do with it, John? Is this a new suffix to your name? Are you on a new path? The Gaines path? I wish you well, sir. But with great power comes great responsibility, man. He says, this whole time I cared about the poor? Ah! Thank you for that, John. Appreciate the support. Always there. Rumble, what's up, Rumble? Thank you, D Live. Kilo Alpha Tango. Right on. And that's all for now. The Gawains are out of control. Okay, so hold on. I'm going to get back to calls, but I want to do something a little funny. This is a video that I saw yesterday. And I laughed. And then I went on with my life. I wasn't going to play this. I had no thoughts. I don't even, why would I play this? I had no reason to. And then I was watching the Hake Report. Anybody catch the Hake Report today? Why is it that we both saw cow videos? Anybody catch the Hake Report today? He was playing this video of someone being surrounded by cows and he's freaking out. and the whole thing is that these are like domesticated cows. I don't have much experience with cows. I've been around a few. But I hear they're pretty nice. They're just curious. They're very curious creatures. And they're just like, they just come and check out what you're doing. And sometimes they circle you in that curiosity. Maybe it's also aggressive. I don't know too much about them. But James plays a really funny video. I'm cracking up. I just think it's so funny. This guy's losing it over these cows surrounding him. He's like, this is bad. Like, this is a really bad position I'm in. He's freaking out. Just yesterday, I saw a video of these two people getting surrounded by cows and freaking out. But basically, it's the Mexican version. So here you go. Hake's video, but the Mexican version. Nos rodearon las vacas. That means we're surrounded by cows. You're going to see this. The editing's funny. Just try and get through it. But this young girl, and I think someone with her who's filming and just having a ball, it's way too funny for him. And she's screaming out. She's like, Dad, or Grandpa, but Dad most likely. We're surrounded by the cows. Nos rodearon las vacas. So please, let's have a laugh.
¡Papá! ¡Nos rodearon la vaca!
She's like, she looks really scared to me. You see that one with the horns? You know, that one, right? I feel like I might be a little stressed out, maybe a little bit. But I try and stay calm. You know, something about animals. I see too many bear videos where you gotta go, oh, I don't know. I feel like I might attempt to exit the circle. But this big guy with the big horns right behind her, I don't know. It's gotta make me nervous. Me da miedo, güey.
Güey, ya tengo miedo, güey. ¡Papi!
Nos rodearon las vacas.
¡Ay, ya no la migra! Espérate. Ay, María Santísima del Purísimo del Señor.
María Santísima la Purísima. She's praying to like saints. She's praying to saints. Who grew up on a ranch? Who knows this life? This is interesting.
María Santísima del Señor, Monte Carmelo. ¡Papi!
Where's Papi?
¡Papi, ya nos rodearon la vaca!
She's so Mexican too. Nos rodearon la vaca. All right, we're good. All right, okay. Just because Hake played one, and now we got the Mexican version. Okay, so we just had to keep it going. Okay, You understand? Oh, Lord. You understand? Okay. What in the Mexican? Let's get to a caller here, and then we're going to get into Trudeau and this stuff going on in Canada. I think. Let's see here. We got stuff to do, so let's get to this caller. Kevin, New York. Appreciate it. You're on the air.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Nick.
Yes,
What's
sir.
up? Hey, you made a comment earlier talking about how a lot of people out there say that poverty and what the violence that comes out of poverty is caused by anger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's very, very interesting to me, Nick, because you know I realize about myself that a very, very long time ago I used to be one of those people who'd be like, oh, hey, you know, these people have fallen under really bad circumstances, and so they have no other choice but to say break into a store and steal for anything that they quote need is what I thought.
Yeah.
You know, I mean that's the interesting thing about it. And just like I told the call screener, you know, this kind of brings on more understanding if you can reflect on that very subject, because you know I realize a lot of things about that. And I used to be one of those people while listening to JLP Network, where, you know, most Christians, most callers would be like, hey, you know, just so we'd be in God's good graces, we need to feed the hungry or give to people who are less fortunate than us. You know what I mean? And JLP would be like, well, why are you doing that? And I used to be one of those people who would get triggered by that. Like, wait, what the hell? Like, why is he saying that?
Right.
That couldn't possibly be Christian to say, hey, don't feed the hungry and stuff like that. But listen here. Like, I realized reflecting on this whole subject that there are probably small pockets, very, very small pockets of people around the world who take on, say, a vow of poverty in order to get closer to God. I'm sure that there are very, very few people like that today, and going back through all of history, even back to Jesus' time or further. And I think that that's fine. But show me one person here in America who has, quote, taken that vow of poverty in order to get closer to God. There's none of them.
I don't think I can think of
You know
one.
what I mean? No, not
even
one.
like, I'm just thinking generally here, but I can't even, I'm trying to, in my mind, imagine who's the most poor. Even a homeless person, I wouldn't even say that person took a vow of poverty the way you're putting it. You're making me think. But go on.
Yeah. And so as I guess, increase in understanding nowadays, I realize that even the poor of America aren't even poor. They've just been conditioned. They've either convinced themselves or been told by someone else, hey, the opportunity is not there. You won't make it because of ... You know what I mean?
So true.
And it's so crazy because, I mean, take that out of your mind for a second, that the Bible teaches us, yes, we need to feed the poor, clothe them, and all that. I believe that was aimed at the people who I said, quote, take that vow of poverty in order to get closer to God. But we can't find any of that nowadays. Instead, it goes more towards the other lesson that we learned from the Bible, that if a man doesn't work, he doesn't eat. You know what I mean?
True.
So,
yeah, they're both there.
I mean, like,
that's so interesting.
Yeah, so it just brings more understanding. So, like, yeah, that's why Jesse Lee Peterson said, don't feed the hungry. I think he put it.
You can imagine there being, I think I'm following you, man, because I have similar, I guess, suspicious conclusions about the poor, so-called poor in America, yeah. It's hard to really find anyone poor. Everyone's fed. You can imagine a truly like destitute. You have imagine just this is a hypothetical. In a vacuum, you have a person, two people, and one has much and one has nothing, and they're begging for food. You know what I'm saying? It's like you have so much, why not? But that's like a situation in a vacuum.
Yeah.
The homeless people are here
absolutely.
are not these destitute people as we're led to believe. Man, interesting. Thank you for that.
Yeah, they're far from it. It becomes a sad case of the sloth of mankind. I guess you can say that there's so many people out there like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But yeah, what do you think of the concept of what I was just talking about? That some people can take on a vow of poverty in order to get closer to God. And then I have a second question for you.
When you first said that, I did have a question. I really want to understand what that means because I've never heard that. But when you said that, it did make me think. It did make me, and I don't know if this is what you meant, but it made me sort of conclude already in my mind. I don't know if anybody, even the homeless people in America aren't. I wouldn't necessarily say they're the poor. They are taking on poverty or even a so-called vow of poverty. But that's all I really thought, man. That's a little interesting. Never heard it before, man. What the heck is a vow of poverty?
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. See that.
I can glean from just what we're talking. I can glean a little bit, but you essentially, I'm gathering you're just taking that on. You're saying I'm going to just give up all possessions, or it's like real radical poverty to only focus on God.
I guess you could put it like that. I wasn't thinking of it like that, but
so what is it then?
Interesting thing, isn't it? Because that's just something I need to think on myself. Because, like I said, there's no examples of it. You know what I mean? Wherever you look, there's no examples of it at all. Instead, the reason why I kind of came up with that phrase myself, I guess, is because we had that figure, the Virgin Mother Mary from the Bible. And my research has led me to believe that herself, she took on, quote, a vow of virginity because her knowledge of the scriptures was unexcelled, and she modeled her life after Abel. And she herself had said that she found that virginity can be
a vow of virginity. God. That's so interesting, man. So do you believe that you need to take a vow, or do you see some positivity in taking on a vow of poverty to get closer to God?
It's not necessary, but there can be benefits to it, I guess.
And why do you say it's not necessary?
Because I agree with all the concepts that God doesn't place a burden on us at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
that's a really cool thing to say, because you can almost tell someone who wants to take a vow of poverty, like, wow, I almost understand what you want to do, but now that you know better, it's almost like you don't have to do that, man.
Yeah. The second thing I wanted to ask you about and pick your brain about is another reoccurring concept that I keep hearing over and over again nowadays, that fasting and prayer can remove demons from your life. I believe that it was Jesus himself that told the disciples. And then it gets into something even more strange, too. You know how people say that through our lifetime we take on parasites in our body?
Mm-hmm. I did a show on that.
From food and stuff like that. Well, yeah. I mean, look at Google those pictures of parasites under the microscope, under the electron microscope. I heard the theory that what we're looking at is the physical manifestation of demons.
Hey, I've heard all sorts of theories.
Parasites.
But you just brought up, you were asking me basically, like, what do I think about fasting and demons?
Fasting and prayer in order to get rid of demons.
Right. Well, you asked me, you want me to pick my brain on that. You know what I would do? And it's happening right now, so here I am doing this. But if someone were to ask me such a question, my first question would be, well, what's a demon? What do you mean by demons?
Well,
yeah, like, right? It's like, what's your understanding of that?
It kind of gets into the cliche understanding of what people think demons are, but I laugh because it coincides with what I was talking about, parasite. That's what a demon acts like. Just imagine it. A parasite attaches to the host. It can change your mood. You know what I mean? And it just feeds off of you.
But parasites are like a physical organism. You can identify them. You can remove them from the body if there's treatment or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't think I don't think I can ignore a parasite, or I could, but to my peril. You know what I mean? As opposed to like a demon in my mind. And when I ignore that, it goes away. You know what I mean? Like, man, that's too personal, but it's just
maybe
there's so many things we gotta unlearn, man. It's personalities. They're all just thoughts. They're all memories.
I gotta get those microscopic pictures of parasites out of my mind because, man, they're creepy. I got the heebie-jeebies so badly, I had to stop myself from looking at it because I'm like,
you're about to go buy up a bunch of ivermectin. You're about to go buy a bunch of ivermectin, and you're gonna do the tape test. Next we're gonna hear. You let us know. You know about the tape test? Do you know about the tape tester? You put a little piece of tape where the sun don't shine. In the morning, you might find out signs of parasites. Let us know how that goes. I remember I asked my audience to do the tape test a long time ago, early Nick Stream days.
Oh, wow. I'm stunned. I had no idea.
Well, thanks, Kevin. Anything else you want to say?
Hey, great call, great show. Thank you so much, and have a good one.
Call me again. 888-775-3773. Yeah. I don't think you got, like, I'm not some demonologist, an expert of the spiritual realm, and like, or parasites or scripture. But what's working for me is so simple. What's working for me is so simple. I don't have to go on any vow of poverty. Sorry, Chad. Sorry. Why did you remind me? Yeah, I don't go on vow of poverty. Just kind of got to see how I'm just a collection of thoughts, desires, and how it's up here. The temptation is up here in the mind. It's like I was doing this show and I felt like I just had too many things, and I was like, Jesse, let me just do 4 p.m. And I realized I was making my whole work life more complicated merely because of thoughts alone. But anyways, let's keep it moving. 888-775-3773. Let's do this. Canada. He's an anchor baby from Canada. You heard about this, okay? You may have heard about this. Trudeau, Justin Trudeau, he's leaving. He's resigning. He's the leader of the Liberal Party in Canada. And he's the Prime Minister. And so he's resigning. That's the story. I saw the video. He made the speech. He made it clear that it's time for somebody else. And yeah, I grew up in Canada a bit. And I was there. I was in Canada when I saw the Liberal Party of Canada ads and the Conservative ads. It was around 2012, 2013. And they had Justin Trudeau there. And he was this young guy with a famous family. I didn't know too much about politics or even Canada at that point. I didn't care much at all. I just remember seeing these ads that the conservatives put out, and they were like smears. I don't know if it's fair to call it a smear, but they were like attack ads, I guess, to Trudeau, saying he's just too young and he's just young and inexperienced. Is he really fit to lead? And I remember as I think pretty much 17, about to end high school. And I was watching these ads and I judged the conservatives. I was like, oh, you guys had to go low? I didn't even know what they were talking about. I judged them just because of the vibe of the ad. I was like, oh, these guys went low. Never thought about politics ever since for a while after that. But yeah, I remember seeing him. The Liberal Party of Canada. Eventually he'd become prime minister. I remember all the ladies around me. They were like, wow, he's so hot. Justin Trudeau. Now he's resigning. And I've come to learn about Justin Trudeau, Canada, his family and all that over the years. Come to learn about him. But he is resigning. He's resigning, stepping down. He's basically remains prime minister until the party picks a new leader. You see, Canadians don't vote for a prime minister. They vote for the party. And the party picks the leader. And as long as the party is in power, that their leader can be in power as long as for that long as well. There are elections. One is coming up in October, with the Conservative Party being the favorite to win, being the one to win. They are led by that 𝒏𝒊𝒂𝒎 guy. He seems all right. More on that later. But yeah, that's their parliamentary system, okay? The party, you pick the party picks the leader. That's how you had a conservative prime minister for 15 years before Trudeau. Stephen Harper. And that's how Trudeau was able to be prime minister since 2015. And he's now resigning. So they'll choose someone until there's this election in October. And then in October, we'll see which party runs the House of Commons. And that's how it works. Each party wins seats in the House of Commons. And when you have a majority, when your party has more seats than any other party, you lead the party. And if your party not only has more seats than any other party, but also has more than half of the seats in the whole House of Commons, you have what's called a majority party. Very little opposition. You have the mandate. You make the laws, blah, blah, blah. A minority government is when they have less than half, but still are the majority party. So they now have to work with the other parties before they could get bills passed. You understand? Some checks and balances and all that. Trudeau has had a minority government for the past 2 re-elections. Liberals have been elected 3 times. So that's the state of Canada. The instability in the politics, the upcoming election in October. A little on Trudeau. You might never have known this, but there was a Teflon before Don. Teflon Trudeau. He had a little bit of a nickname. Before there was Teflon Don, it was Teflon Trudeau. And it was because he was seemingly just untouchable. You know, he had this impression that he was young and couldn't really lead. And then he went and did this striptease thing and raised money for some charity. And that was a huge attack ad. And they're like, this guy's a ridiculous person. He did push-ups for this other thing. And so he had a bad rap amongst some, but he was like a progressive darling. At least some people remember this way. Some of the people I'm reading about when they're writing about Trudeau. But it's not unfounded in my memory. I remember him and Sophie were proud feminists. Sophie Trudeau, his wife. And that's a family name that has some happenstance to it. Trudeau, his father was a previous prime minister. So it's a famous family. Progressive darlings, worshipped on social media. And, if you know anything about the Trudeaus and the Trudeau fam and... Oh, where did my show go? Let's just do it over here. If you know anything about the Trudeau family and the way he governed and his dream... I mean, just look at this, if I may, for a moment. Oh, there you go. It's just the first picture, Trudeau's family in Indian saris, and they would do these things. They'd go to these events and they'd wear the Indian clothes, and they're like, we're so multicultural. We love multiculturalism. And they would boast how, I mean, Trudeau, that was his whole governance, especially at the beginning. His whole thing would be to boast about how Canada was so great at letting in people, assimilating immigrants. We're the most welcoming nation. Look at all these refugees we allow in. The Trudeau family. Canada is a country built on the contributions of people from around the world, and we will continue to be a beacon. Yeah, so that's the Trudeau mentality for a bit. And it's been a big change. Since then, it's been quite a change in terms of how much of public opinion. You know, you started with the lockdowns. That didn't go so well. You know, the truckers were protesting. Canada's like, what's going on? And then he flipped, you know, things are getting worse. Inflation. So Canadian life starts changing a bit, starts getting tougher. And then he flip-flops some on immigration. He says, I believe in October 2023, he says, you know, we're basically wrong. My administration was wrong. We're gonna rethink this immigration thing. Which is, by the way, a little side note. I think he really does. I think he has seen the public outcry a bit, and some part of him has rethought the immigration thing. And what I'm trying to express here is how, you know, it's like he probably has seen something, but that's just, you remember when you saw something about immigration? You know, it started off slow. Your little liberal mind couldn't handle it. So first you were like, okay, maybe we can change the numbers a bit, okay? So it might be some time before he realizes it's completely wrong. Canada doesn't have the time. Anyways, so flip-flop on immigration. His marriage fell apart. You know, there was, I don't know any of the details, and I don't care. But that's a shame or whatever. Or maybe it's actually, he's in the best position of his life. Depends on how you look at it. He may be in the best position of his life. More on that in a moment. But it's been interesting to observe from a vantage point, so to speak. Because you have to wonder, what motivates someone to run a nation into the ground, so to speak? And I'm being a little careful here, or I'm trying to pull back a little, because I mean, I don't really know exactly where Trudeau went wrong. I'm really just talking about a mindset here, and this mindset is not just Trudeau, but in his administration, in the government, and in the citizenry. And what I'm trying to get at is what I've observed. It's so strange yet obvious that this man really thought that he was like changing Canada. Some part of him must have really believed that. And he had a dream. He was a dreamer. Trudeau. Oh, Trudeau, the dreamer. He dreamed too big. He just dreamed way too big. And he dreamed of a world that's against racism, that's welcoming to the immigrants. We're a liberal. You understand what I'm getting at here? If you have been following him, he's a little dreamer. He's one of these dreamers, and he just and the dream is a lie, and you have to lie to keep the dream alive. You have to lie that all cultures are the same. You have to lie and tell your citizens that they harbor, that they unless you do XYZ ritual to cleanse yourself of the sin of racism, that you basically harbor something in your heart against minorities. You have to lie for this. So let me just play this a little bit here, and then we'll move on. 888-775-3773. Trudeau says something here at the beginning of his resignation. I think this is his resignation speech that was interesting to me. He says something, let me just find this. He says he deeply cares. So let's watch this. After this ad. Okay, Justin Trudeau, take it away.
Has told me to fight because I care. My friends, as you all know, I'm a fighter. Every bone in my body has always told me to fight because I care deeply about Canadians. I care deeply about this country, and I will always be motivated by what is in the best interest of Canadians. And the fact is, despite best efforts to work through it, Parliament has been paralyzed for months after what has been the longest session of a minority parliament in Canadian history. That's why this morning I advised the Governor-General that we need a new session of Parliament. She has granted this request, and the House will now be prorogued until March 24th. Over the holidays, I've also had a chance to reflect and have had long talks with my family about our future. Throughout the course of my career, any success I have personally achieved has been because of their support and with their encouragement. So last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as Prime Minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the President of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
Right on, Trudeau. You know, Trudeau, he's not such a bad guy. Maybe you don't understand why I'm saying that, but you know, I'm watching that. I've seen Trudeau over the years, and I bet you it's a little difficult to not have that way he speaks. He just got that way of speaking to the camera, and he's good at it. And despite that, a part of me, maybe I just want to believe this, but a part of me thinks that he I don't know, he's really like, I'm not doing a good job. And somebody else has got to do it. I wonder what he's really thinking too. At this stage, after having the dream, but the wife leaves. And I don't know the deets. I don't know who left. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to communicate with you guys. The marriage falls apart or whatever. The people, he's not a darling in the people's eyes anymore. He's going out in the public and there's people just coming up to him. Get out of our province. Get out of British Columbia. Just like 2 days ago, he's out in the public and they're screaming in his face, get out. And, you know, people are angry. They feel they're not heard. There's no justification for anger, but you could see it's not out of nowhere. And so he's out there, and I wonder what he's really thinking. I just wonder what he's really thinking, and I hope he's given up. Wouldn't that be an interesting position? You'd think, wow, Trudeau, what a horrible life. This guy's going through the worst of it. He's having the worst life right now. I gotta say, this is an amazing moment for Trudeau personally, just his personal life. Out of interest. You know, it's time to step down, buddy. It didn't work. Racism doesn't exist. And you freaking trashed the country for a false dream. So, but now is a chance to give up. Isn't that interesting? And I don't know, maybe he's just got pressure from his own Liberal Party. Maybe his own Liberal Party's like, bro, it's time to move on, and he's just doing the dance. But part of me wants to believe that he's given up. You know, Sophie, it's over with Sophie. It's like the world hates me. I'm not as amazing as I thought I was. I guess I didn't quite understand it all. So, I guess I didn't know what love was. I guess I don't quite get it. I guess I don't know. And wouldn't that be an amazing thing to realize? Maybe you don't believe me, but just think about it. It's like, now you don't have to prove anything. Now there's nothing to prove. Now there's nobody to fight with. Now there's nobody to live up to. There's no dream that you have to keep alive. There's nothing you have to lie about anymore. So just talking personally, because that's really more interesting to me. A part of me wants to believe that this is Trudeau giving up. And you know what, sir? You give up. And you give up. And you do it well. It's going to be good for you. Okay? What are you out there fighting for? And the people of Canada, what can I say, Trudeau? They're weak. They're, how do I put this? They voted in the Liberals 3 times. What am I trying to get at here? They're going to vote in 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎. They're going to have their conservative government. They're going to have a little bit of relief. And then we'll see. Maybe nothing happens. Most likely that's all that happens. Most likely that's all that happens with Trump. Because that's how people are. That's how life is a little. They get a little relief with conservatives. Get a little relief in Canada with 𝒏𝒊𝒄𝒌𝒔𝒕𝒓𝒆𝒂𝒎. And they'll be like, yeah, we got, like, for example, he said there's this carbon tax. You got to imagine, you got to understand this, that Canada is one of these, if not the first, Canada is one of these nations that has innovated with this thing they're calling the carbon tax. And what the heck is carbon? Everything. And so they're going to tax it. They're going to tax the carbon emissions from your cars, from all the transportation of goods, and somehow this is going to save the planet. And so what do you have 𝒏𝒊𝒂𝒊𝒂𝒍𝒔 saying right now? He's the conservative, and I'm sure he's a fine guy. Of everything I've seen, he seems like an all right guy. He seems like he'd probably be a great leader, he'd probably do right things for Canada. But only up until his fear lets him. Only up until his fear lets him. Once he starts going up against real conflict, I wonder where he'll really stand. Here's what I'm getting at. He's talking about the carbon tax right now. This Pierre is talking about the carbon tax like, Trudeau, he wanted to do this carbon tax. What a crazy liberal. Vote for me and we'll get rid of the carbon tax. You can imagine it right now. Canadians like, yeah! And they vote him in, they get rid of the carbon tax, and they're like, we won. The carbon tax is just, it's good. It'd be fantastic if someone gets rid of it. If Pierre's the guy to do it, that's why you voted him in. That'd be great. But you understand what I'm getting at? That would be the great big conservative victory over the liberals. Do you understand the mess? So what am I even getting at? I'm at this point, I'm rambling. I'm done with the Canada thing, but it's up to the individuals. It's up to the awakening that's already happened, and to keep it going. You know, it's like there's gonna be Trump is Trump, and it's like he's one guy, this avatar of an old American spirit. Someone's got to keep it going. Somebody else, somebody younger. So, what else on this? That's it. That's pretty much what I was thinking. Shout out to the Canadians, wishing you well. It's not just like, yay, Trudeau's gone. It's like everything's great. No, this is a sign that things are unstable. It's not a sign to celebrate. This is not a moment to, we won. That's not a win. That's instability in your government and instability within the family, within yourselves and each other. It's not a fear thing. I'm not telling you to be afraid, but it's a bit of a wake-up call. You know, it's not a victory. That's like signs of things that aren't working. But what else? What else was I going to say about that? It's a little bit of a victory. Let me not be too. It's a bit of a victory because there's some maybe changing attitude. So Wishing you well. October's coming on, Canada. And let's go. So what else? That's it. Trudeau. Mr. Trudeau. His life is interesting. And the Canadians interest me a little bit. If I may, and then we'll totally move on. Because this is what is really the overarching message of this segment here. You know, what's scrambling the liberal brain? It's anger. And a conservative with anger is just a liberal. There's this Cybertruck guy. There's this Cybertruck that exploded with fireworks in front of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. You know about this. And this guy who did it, allegedly or whatever, was a former military person. And there's all this stuff that he loved Trump, that he was a patriot. But there's also some stuff about a possible infidelity in either a relationship or a marriage even. Anyways, the story goes that this man drove this truck in front of the hotel and blew it up. Shot himself in the head with a gun. And I wanted to zero in on something here because you saw the video of Justin Trudeau saying, I fight because I care deeply. And I'm pointing that out again for a reason. This Cybertruck bomber person, allegedly, there's a manifesto out. Las Vegas Metro Police release messages found on Matthew Livelsberger's phone in the Tesla Cybertruck. And I'm getting this from 8 News Now. And this is apparently, an alleged message, manifesto, final note, final message from this Matthew Livelsberger. How do you say that? Matthew Livelsberger. Whatever. It was found on his phone allegedly. Let's read this. It's not too long. Because it was interesting. You might find it interesting. Let's see here. Okay. So this is from Matthew, allegedly. We are the United States of America, the best country people, I'm going to read it how he wrote it. The best country people to ever exist. But right now we are terminally ill and headed towards collapse. We are crumbling because of a lack of self-respect, morals, and respect for others. Greed and gluttony has consumed us. The top 1% decided long ago they weren't going to bring everyone else with them. You are cattle to them. We have strayed from family values and corrupted our minds, and I am a prime example of having it all, but it never being enough. Cryptic and dark, but okay. Let me continue. A lot of us are just sitting around waiting to die. No sunlight, no steps, no fresh air, no hope. Our children are addicted to screens. By the age of 2, we are filling our bodies with processed foods. Our population is too fat to join the military, yet we're facing war with China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran. We must take these actions if we're going to make it past the next few years in one piece. And he writes out some actions here. He says, we must end the war in Ukraine. Focus on strength and winning. Masculinity is good, and men must be leaders. Strength is deterrent, and fear is the product. This is what he's writing. Allegedly. Weeded out those in our government and military who do not idealize. Number 2. The income inequality in this country. Cost of living is outrageous. Number of homeless on the street is embarrassing. We need some pride to have some pride and take care of this. Stop obsessing over diversity, he says. Thankfully, we rejected the DEI candidate, and we have a real president instead of Weekend at Bernie's. We got to move on from this culture of weakness, self-enrichment perpetuated by our senior political and military leaders. We're done with blatant corruption. Our soldiers are done fighting wars without end states or clear objectives. He writes, this was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives? Why did I personally do it now? I needed to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost and relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. Consider this last sunset of 24 my actions. End of our sickness, a new chapter of health for our people. Rally around Trump, Musk, Kennedy, and ride this wave to the highest hegemony. For all Americans, we are second to no one. Fellow service members and all Americans, time to wake up. Let me see here. We're being led by weak and feckless leaders. It's almost over. Let me finish this. Occupy every major road. He basically says no violence, but we're going to try peaceful means at first, but be prepared to fight. Okay. So that's Matthew there. And I guess I'd just read it out. But, my first impression as I was reading this the first time was that this guy doesn't know as much as he thinks he does. This guy doesn't know as much. He just doesn't. When you're reading this, it's all half-baked kind of things, like just half. These are just thoughts. These are thoughts and feelings. Look at what he says here. He says this is not a terrorist attack. Wait, hold on. He says, why did I personally do it now? I needed to. He gives all sorts of reasons, but they're all different and disjointed. These are all thoughts. These are mere thoughts. This guy was angry, and there's reports that he a relationship or a marriage was ending due to infidelity, allegedly. So you can imagine, right? Angry, desperate. And he tells himself, I need to cleanse my mind of the brothers I've lost. But the brothers you've lost, it's already over. What is there? What else is there to... Where is the pain coming from of these brothers lost? He's a former military guy. It's merely in your memories. It's merely in your head. He's saying, I've got to relieve myself of the burden of the lives I took. But that's just another identity too. You're just feeling bad about, you were doing a job, right? But let's say you feel like I was wrong. At this point, all you're doing is going through another memory. And the lives I took. I hear military guys talk like that, and I can't help but get this impression that they're putting on a character. It's like, whoa, you're going to say that to a veteran? This guy was in war. He had to kill people for you. But now he's over here doing some sob story about all the people you had to kill. I guess maybe I sound glib, but I've always had this impression that that's a character you're putting on. It was so hard, man, and the things I had to do. All the things you had to do were memories. And maybe they're really distraught, but that distraught state they're in is brought on by a mere memory. And he puts himself in this. He's like, we've strayed from family values and corrupted our minds. And I'm a prime example of having it all, but never being enough. A lot of us are sitting around waiting to die. No sunlight, no steps, no fresh air. Addicted to screens, filling our bodies with processed foods. I look at pictures of this guy. He didn't look, how do I put it? He's got that like plump look of an adult gamer. Sorry. He's got that plump look of an adult gamer. I'm just trying to say, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe he looks kind of active, actually. He looks kind of active. I'm just kind of shooting off the cuff on some things. But Matthew, I wonder, he says, he's talking about all this corruption, our minds and our filling our bodies with processed foods. It's like, Matthew, I wonder what you thought about that. I wonder, it's like, did you really blame the world for those things? We've strayed our family values. I wonder what he thought about that. I wonder if he thought to himself, why did I stray from those things? And why am I wonder if he had a chance to really think about that and reflect. If he brought that reflection to himself and not society, and I don't know if he did or didn't, I wonder if he may have learned something. He may have learned something about himself as opposed to how corrupt the world is around him. And maybe you'd have a chance to realize that you really are your own world, that these family values and corrupted minds and sitting around to die, no sunlight, being addicted to screens and a body full of processed food, that it's his body, his mind, his lack of sunlight, and his corrupt mind, not anybody else. So, those are the things I was thinking of when I was reading this. And liberals don't get this, okay? Liberals would never get this. Even conservative liberals, meaning conservatives with anger. So that's the story of the Cybertruck Manifesto a little bit. There is a thread I've noticed with these killers and people who've overreacted, in my opinion, and gone off and done something crazy like this. I've always had this impression that somewhere along the way, they make this assumption. They make this crazy assumption that came from the mind. And if you read their writing and you weren't paying attention and you were an intellectual, you would be convinced. And you'd be like, wow, look at how he intellectually arrived to that conclusion. But what intellectuals fail to realize, and you'd think an intellectual would, is that they can't tell the future. They really can't, as much as they might want to or think they can. And these people, I've said it before, like Ted Kaczynski, he had all these conclusions about how technology was what it was gonna be like. And so far, it's not like that. And so you did that for no reason. You had this guy who wrote this book called The Population Bomb. He got everybody scared about overpopulation and it's gonna be a big mess and there's not gonna be resources. That was supposed to be like billions of people ago. Those are just the two that come to mind, but if you understand what I'm getting at, you understand. Like, those are my examples. You understand. So anyways, that's the story with all that. That was my thinking on it. Nit alienating the audience right now. I mean, I'm just kind of looking at chat right now. What have y'all been up to? How am I alienating the chat? What's up, chat? Hey, I haven't said hi to you. I've barely looked at you today. Nit trashing Delta Force operative. That's rich. Wait, I'm trashing him? How am I trashing him? I'm just saying, I'm just reading what he wrote. I'm just responding to what he wrote, allegedly. Tell me where I'm wrong. 888-775-3773. But I don't think I've said anything wrong here. That was his world. That was his world, and you could be a conservative, but you have anger, you're a liberal. Isn't this proof, too, of that? We love our screens and processed food. Let's see here. I think that's all I had to say about this. So appreciate it. Thanks for the patience here. Thanks for the super chats, too, by the way. John Gawains coming back with more says, Falconing is going to share scriptures for Gawains. What are your favorite scriptures for Gaines, chat? I'd like to hear them. And he's got another super chat. He says, I give because I can. I also like to give food. I also like to give good gifts, and sometimes I mess up and try to be helpful for homeless. I am a cheerful giver, so it's easy. I don't necessarily see anything wrong with that. I don't know what to think. I'm not making an opinion. For me, it's never. For me, it's not. For me, it's like it's like the motivation. What's your motivation? That's what makes sense to me. And most people are motivated by a desire to feel like they are helpful. Most people are motivated by a thought that makes them think that they're helping and that they're doing something positive, or that person is a victim. Most people are motivated by guilt because they think they should, or some false morality tells them that they should act in a certain way. So if it's none of those things, I don't see why you can't give somebody something you want to give them. Especially if they ask for it. Hey, I want food. Hey, I want money. But you know, like really watch yourself, because like I'm telling you, 99%. I'm talking about 99% of people. So, all right, that's the super chats. Thank you, everybody. And give me just one moment here. So, lack of professionalism here, but I need to run over there and press that button. All right. Now we got the fan on. Let's see. Do we have anything else? Because I wanted to move on with this final story here. And it has to do with fear, conservatives, and the how do you say this? The Rotherham grapes. That's getting a lot of attention right now. You see, if I may give you a little rundown. The grooming scandal. You've heard of this. It's getting all sorts of attention right now, but this is an old story. Yeah, it's a little bit of an older story, but essentially, they call it, let's see here. Rotherham. Ah, a town in England. And in England, okay, you know about this. Rotherham. The Rotherham grooming scandal. A series of child sexual exploitation incidents that occurred in South Yorkshire in the UK, predominantly between the 1990s and early 2010s. Pretty old story. It's been going on for a bit. It's crazy. Controversy centers around the sexual abuse of at least 1,400 children, many of whom were young girls by mostly men of Pakistani descent. Victims were typically vulnerable children, some as young as 11, groomed, coerced, and abused over extended periods of time. Nasty details that would be shocked. I really don't need to go through the sordid details, but it's like imagine the worst. It's pretty bad. The scandal came to light in 2014 when an independent inquiry revealed that local authorities and law enforcement had failed to act despite knowing about the abuse. The report criticized the police for not taking allegations seriously, social services for not adequately protecting children, fear of being labeled racist or facing backlash from ethnic communities led to inaction from officials, which allowed the abuse to continue unchecked. The controversy led to national outrage in the UK and prompted debates on the institutional failures, child protection, race, and political correctness in handling sensitive issues. A little rundown on the whole thing. And this recently got some major attention. And I think I was there, and I could be wrong because maybe X.com is just some bubble, but it feels like it started there. You know, they were talking about the H-1B stuff. If you remember, over the Christmas holiday break, there was this huge row over the H-1B visa thing. Elon Musk was at the center of this, and others, and having discussions and arguments on X publicly about his support of these H-1B visas that bring in these immigrants and give them jobs. Many felt it was a betrayal. It's like, well, you know, we're not even cool with the legal immigration. Maybe some of the right-wing, the freshly new right-wing tech bros were like, wow, we didn't know you guys didn't like legal immigration. I don't know. So that was going on. And it was in the midst of all this that the Rotherham grooming scandal was brought back and went, and a whole bunch of people who had no idea about it have been educated over this, edumamificated, anger education maybe even. But that's a little bit of the rundown, okay? That's what happened. And so now they're talking about this. They're bringing it back up. And, you know, some of the details really are crazy. Like, for example, earlier I was talking about Trudeau and even this Cybertruck bombing. But not even the Cybertruck thing, just Trudeau for a moment. And you sit back and you got to wonder, how can someone govern this way? How can it be that people are not happy, that it's not working out? Your dream of all these immigrants assimilating, it's not true. Your dream of this, all your liberal ideas on crime, etc., it's just not working. You gotta wonder, how can someone be motivated to govern in such a way? What is it? And you look at Trudeau's life and you realize, wow, it's like they believe in this dream. They have to lie to achieve this dream, but they believe in this false love. They have this belief. And this fear too. Fear also runs people. And yes, fear is a very powerful thing, even in the face of something as clear as Pakistani gangs grooming young English children to do these horrible things. Even as that's all happening, you had people like this is Ed West, okay? His name is Ed West. Wait, hold on. Ed West. He is a conservative. According to Mike Cernovich here on X, this man, Ed West, is a conservative by UK standards. This Ed West guy, Mike Cernovich, highlights his commentary regarding the Rotherham grooming gang stuff. Here is this individual. I don't know him. He goes by Tom Holland. He says the true nightmare of Rotherham is that the motives of those who turned a blind eye, however monstrous the consequences, were indeed noble. Are you taking this in? This person here is arguing that the people who turned a blind eye to all the grooming, raping, and all that, their intentions were good. See, because it wasn't the indifference that was noble, but the concern not to demonize a minority, caring for the weak, the Christian thing. This Tom Holland individual is actually justifying this by saying that the people who hid the whole grooming scandal is because they were motivated by a truly noble cause, to care for the weak, because they didn't want to demonize the Muslims. You understand what I'm getting at? Yes, fear and this false love, this thinking is powerful stuff. And that is how you can run how you can govern a nation in such a way, almost in a way that defies all logic. You as the observer, you have to ask, how can it be? It's because of this. You can really have that corrupt of a mind and heart. And then you got this guy here, highlighted by Mike Cernovich, Ed West. He says, I'm a friend and admirer of Tom Holland, so not an impartial commentator, but the criticism he's received today is totally unwarranted. He was describing the motivations of those in authority, not justifying them. This guy's agreeing with him. The intention was good. It was noble. No, even the intention was not good, because you believe that that to think that you would have to protect someone in such a way, that you would have to bend any sort of factual truth to protect someone's feelings and ego, there's nothing good about that. That is evil at its core. What are you protecting here? The truth or someone's ego and feelings? So that's crazy. And so it really was fear. That's all I'm trying to express with this. It really was fear that could allow such a thing. It really was just, what I'm trying to get at is that in this whole politic and all this stuff, the things that control people, the things that are at the center of how badly a place can be governed really is the spirit, the dark heart, the fearful heart that's unable to say the truth out of fear of being called racist, the dreamer, the heart of the dreamer who really thinks he has love and he's good and his family is good. And I'm bringing good things to Canada, Trudeau. It's a spiritual malady at its core. And there's another interesting thing going on here. And it has to do with fear and conservatives. And I'm going to bring it to America in a moment, but we're talking about the UK. And there's there's a name that I'm somewhat familiar with, and I'm pretty sure I have no problem with him. I think he's a fine guy, no? But he might be weak. Like most conservatives, like most men, like most people in the world. And weakness is evil. I'm talking about Nigel Farage. You may have heard of him. You can't barrage the Farage. It might be Nigel Farage. Might not be Farage. I've heard you can't barrage the Farage. And he's a conservative. I've seen him around, and I've seen some, I don't know, pretty tough sounding things, I think. Pedro Gonzalez here on X with an interesting thread that kind of makes the point for me on how conservatives are controlled by fear. And I want to read this. Pedro Gonzalez posts, "It's crazy how short the right's memory is and how so often the people who were at one point calling others racists end up taking the same positions they once denounced for cynical/political reasons, while true believers get burned and buried." And it's this thread on Nigel Farage. And this whole thing on how there was at one point, there was a campaign to replace Nigel Farage as party leader. And the person who was there, who was trying to usurp him, was a woman. But I don't know much about this time, right? Where are the Brits in the chat? You might know better than I, but looking into this, as a look into the past, looks like there was an interesting spat here for a moment some years ago. And this woman is interesting. You know, I don't know how to make of her. She says on her Twitter here, she says she wrote a book called Women Erased. So I don't know. What is she? It sounds like a progressive, right? But she is running for to replace Nigel Farage as the party leader of what I think is the something conservative. Grooming gangs were central to her campaign, according to Jack Buckby. And apparently Nigel smeared her as a racist. That was one of his defenses. He pulled out all the stops to beat her and celebrated the loss by calling her racist, according to this Jack Buckby person. So I don't know how true that is.
I have always felt that.
But a part of me almost can believe it. You understand? Because they really are fearful. They're afraid of being called racist. And it apparently wasn't just him, but it was many others who were so-called conservatives in the UK. But when it came to the grooming scandal stuff, they really didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. You know, like, I don't want to be involved with this. Don't call me racist. And so I can believe it. I really just bring that up too, to relate it to America a little bit. H1B, if I may, for a moment, in the last few minutes of the show. It's just weird, folks. And I really do like MAGA and Musk and all that. But it's just weird. And if any of this is true, if any of this is true, that 4.0 graduates aren't able to get jobs in tech, if this is true, Berkeley professor, then I don't care who it is. It's the anchor baby's opinion that there's at least something wrong with this whole thing, and I don't care who it is. And I'm sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure he wants good things for America, but we're told that as conservatives, we got to accept this because actually, no, they're just trying to bring in the best and the brightest. This is not like that crazy immigration stuff the Democrats want. They're just bringing in the best and the brightest. You know what? It's like, we can even have a conversation about it. Fine. But if any of this is true, then even that point that I'm being asked to accept is not even close to true then even that is a lie. Because if anything like this is true, and I've gone through some of this on past shows, then the whole thing is a scam. If even 4.0 GPA graduates are not getting tech jobs, then these people just want the cheaper labor.
Best CS grads with 4.0 GPAs coming out of...
And anyone who can't say otherwise, they're fearful. Kind of like what I was saying about Nigel, blah, blah, blah. So that's the whole point. Wrap it up with a bow. Here's the video.
Berkeley still cannot get jobs in tech. The tech job market has dried up. You have outspoken CEOs like the one from Klarna who says that AI can do all the jobs. The reporting goes further. It says that this is an irreversible trend and that graduates are facing a money pinch over the next 4 years because they cannot find an opportunity. Tech companies laid off over 37,000 people since January. As a founder, I get to see in a lot of different companies. And unfortunately, I've seen staff from some of our clients be laid off and they're not hiring them back. What they're doing is actually going into their salaries and using that money, hire an AI implementation partner who can do that job for them. A lot of these roles like connecting databases, processing claims, reviewing different tracks, doing billing, like all of these rote repetitive tasks are being automated and there's huge displacement. Job hunting is a real problem for this day's college graduate. What do you think the solution is? How can we help find jobs for young people, or how can they find meaningful employment?
Well, it's a great question, and there's probably even some spiritual stuff to deal with. But if we could keep it real simple, if the idea is that the H-1B is bringing in someone who is more skilled and is worth more than the American counterpart, who is less educated, etc. But if that were true, then these graduates who are more educated and all that, and are more productive in some other, we did other shows on this, these people who are H-1Bs, they're not even making the company more money and all that, and producing more. If that's all true, then actually the whole thing's a scam. So, and I'm being told to believe something that's not true. So that's the thing on H-1B and fear and governing. Okay, that's the story. Whew. But that's the show. And I think that's the show. All right, we done did it. And we squeezed every drop out of that show. I do appreciate you being with me. And in fact, I have to end right now. We have an interesting thing about to come up. The network's not over. We got more shows coming up. We, in fact, got Punchy TV coming up right after this. So let me say goodbye, and I'll see you tomorrow for more American Anchor, baby. Take care. Appreciate all the super chats, the support, and all the calls. And go follow Punchy TV on YouTube, punchy.tv. On the internet, punchy.tv, because we're about to be live still. So don't go anywhere. More programming coming at you. Imagine that. But that's it for the Anchor Baby Show for now. So take care, and I'll see y'all. Well, in this case, I'll see you in a few minutes. But also American Anchor Baby tomorrow, 12 noon Pacific time. Take care. Bye-bye.